Welcome to the Car Deal Advisor Podcast Show. The presenter of this show is Hugh Hetrick. Get ready for special motoring legends and great deals on your next set of wheels. So the 5 red lights have just gone out and it's go, go, go.
Well, hello and good evening, and welcome to the Car Deal Advisor Podcast Show with me, Hugh Hetrick. Well, I hope you're all well tonight. Thanks to all our listeners. Now you might be wondering, who am I going to introduce this week or for tonight's show? Well, I've just been watching the Brazilian Grand Prix and I was so excited by it, and I thought it's such a great race to do a review of that I'll just do it by myself and see how it goes. So that's exactly what's happening tonight. I'm going to do a review of the Brazilian Grand Prix and then also have some other news to cover involving a special deal for all of those involved in the UK Armed Forces or Emergency Services. So stay put and stay with us, because if you're a member of the UK Armed Forces or the Commonwealth Armed Forces and live in the UK, or if you're a member of staff for the UK Emergency Services, then stay on the line, because there's a phenomenal deal coming up later on in the show. Let's get to it. It's the Brazilian Grand Prix review. Well, if you're listening to this show on Sunday evening, you will have probably already got the result, that Lewis Hamilton won, but it was a pretty lucky victory as Max Verstappen pushed him close and almost won, and in fact, for quite a part of the race, was actually leading. The Red Bulls showed that they had pace when nobody thought they had, or certainly compared to their qualifying trim, they were much, much faster in race trim. In the end, it was an incident between Max Verstappen and Esteban Ocon in the Force India that caused all the fuss. It was on lap 44, coming through the Senna S, that Ocon and Verstappen clashed and came together, resulting in Verstappen spinning out. And at that point, he had actually already overtaken Lewis Hamilton, but Hamilton retook the lead, and it was a lead he would never lose. And as Verstappen rejoined the track, he had quite a bit of damage to his car, so it really was pretty miraculous that he was able to not only keep going, but to accelerate and actually reduce the gap to him and Hamilton. And by the end of the race, it was less than 1.5 seconds between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. But it was a pretty good race even from the get-go. At the start, Valtteri Bottas overtook Sebastian Vettel for second place, again coming into the first corner. It didn't take long for Ricciardo to move up a number of places to get up to 5th behind Raikkonen, Verstappen, Vettel, and also Lewis Hamilton and Bottas. In the end, Ricciardo would finish 4th, just behind Kimi Raikkonen. And for quite a while, Raikkonen really showed his form today by not only overtaking Sebastian Vettel, but really being quicker in all fronts. It seemed as if Sebastian Vettel was struggling with grip and his general pace. You kind of wonder, now that he's lost the championship, whether he's lost a little bit of interest as well. He seems to have had quite an unfortunate run over the last few races. But I'm sure in Abu Dhabi, in 2 weeks' time, he'll be back to his normal, incredibly competitive pace. But as usual, with the Brazilian sambas playing in the background, it was a real carnival experience. And it was a much, much closer race. I mean, really, it was quite intense, because all the time, even when Hamilton was leading at the start, Bottas wasn't too far behind, but Verstappen very, very quickly got in front of him. And you could see that gap shrinking to Hamilton every lap. And it wasn't long before Verstappen overtook Hamilton and really started to pull away. In fact, he pulled away so much that he almost managed to have a pit stop amount of time, but when he did take his pit stop, which was quite a bit later than Lewis Hamilton, as Hamilton came in on lap 19, Hamilton just managed to get ahead, but again, with Verstappen on fresher tyres, it wasn't long before he retook the lead. And of course, there was that sensational coming together between Ocon and Verstappen. And just as we go to press, it's been just breaking news that Verstappen and Ocon have been called in front of the stewards again. Because not only did Ocon get a 10-second penalty, and he was seen to have caused the accident, but there was a scuffle as they came into the garages to get weighed at the end of the race. it was alleged that Max Verstappen pushed Ocon a number of times and was potentially going to punch him. Now you can see that in the interview with Verstappen, he wasn't happy. He says, "Why should we be taken out? When I'm lapping someone, they should be surely getting out of the way and adhering to the blue flags." And you can certainly understand his point of view. But if you see the footage of the Grand Prix and the coming together at the Senna S, it's kind of, I think, a little bit closer than that. I mean, I have to say, if I was doing that move, I would have almost have thought Ocon really wasn't far off in his rights to have pulled such a move. Verstappen basically came right in and cut in and closed the door. But you could say, if you're leading the race, then those that you're lapping should be clear and able to get out of your way. But it was certainly a very exciting race, and it really shows you that Hamilton can win even when he doesn't have the pressure of trying to win a title. I mean, he's done exceptionally well this year when you think of the Grand Prix that he's won, when really Ferrari should have been in pole position and should have walked away with it, as in much of the time they had a much faster car. So, as you're listening to our review today, let me know your thoughts. You can email us at podcast@cardealadvisor.co.uk and let us know, what did you think of the Grand Prix? Was it up to scratch or was it below par? And what do you think of the 2018 scene in general? Do you think Formula One is getting more competitive? Do you think it's as good as it should be? Or do you hark back, like me, to the days of the V8s, of wonderful screaming engines and lots of amazing overtakes? Although I have to say, the last couple of years have been pretty good for the overtaking that's been going on. So, you're listening to the Cardio Advisor podcast show with me, Hugh Hatrick. At cardioadvisor.co.uk, we can help you save thousands of pounds on your next new car or van. And we can also source second-hand cars as well. And we can save you money on car rental, whether it be in the UK and abroad. Just click our rental link on the website. And we'll give you a free gift if you trade in your car with We Buy Any Car using our special website link. So go to the website now and see how much you can save. And it's back to the show. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to the Cardio Advisor podcast show with me, Hugh Hatrick, and I'm going solo tonight. Well, let's get back to the Brazilian Grand Prix. Well, the result of Hamilton winning tonight means that Mercedes have won the Constructors' Championship for 5 years on the trot. A pretty spectacular achievement, and one that you could say really meant something to Hamilton, as when he got out of the car, he hugged and cheered his team for quite a while. In fact, it took the commentators from Sky a good few minutes to be able to get a hold of him to actually try and do an interview. So they had to do Kimi Räikkönen first, and then Max Verstappen. Well, normally they always interview the person who wins straight away, as soon as they're out of the car. But what does it mean for the rest of the teams? Well, next year there's quite a few changes coming up. Red Bull are getting the Honda engine, and many people now think that they could actually be, in with a chance, as the Honda engine has been getting better and better, and if they can keep going with that kind of progress, then perhaps next year they'll have a car that won't be far away, maybe even as competitive as the Mercedes and Ferrari. You have to admit, Ferrari must be wondering what can they possibly do to compete with the Mercedes, because even when they have a car that's quicker, they don't seem to have the consistency or just the ability from the drivers, it seems. They seem to bottle it when they need to be going at their best to win a world championship. And now that Hamilton is a 5-time world champion and Vettel has only 4 titles, although that does sound like a bit of an understatement, is actually a pretty big achievement to be able to do anything like that, you have to wonder, has Sebastian Vettel maybe lost some of his motivation? But he's certainly going to be pushed, because we've got Leclerc, who's going to be joining him at Ferrari next year, and of course Kimi Räikkönen is going to replace Leclerc at Sauber Alfa Romeo, which I think will make a very interesting season. I think they could be a lot faster than what people think. And there was also news this week that there's going to be another new Grand Prix. Now, do you have any idea where it might be? Where could it possibly be? Maybe the Middle East? Somewhere else? Nope, you're wrong. It is Vietnam. That's right. There's going to be a new Grand Prix in Hanoi from 2020. There are videos of the track guide that they proposed track guide, certainly available on YouTube, and it's certainly well worth watching. I think it's going to be a fantastic Grand Prix and probably a brilliant tourist destination. Sometimes going as far as Vietnam, or certainly in a few years back, if you went to Malaysia, to the Grand Prix in Malaysia, it was actually a very good deal and worked out to be quite cost effective, even though it was quite far away. In terms of for the exchange rate from UK pound to the Malaysian currencies, you actually did quite well. So, another Grand Prix, and what's more, the teams were advised that there's potentially going to be up to 25 Grand Prix in a year, so there's going to be plenty more races to watch. Makes you wonder how they're going to fit them all in, if they're going to be starting in early March and finishing almost at Christmas time at this rate. But so it's going to get busier and busier. I mean, I remember when 15 Grand Prix in a year seemed like a huge amount to watch, but now with the potential for 25, it's certainly going to be interesting. But that means that there's probably going to be many more new Grand Prix tracks, and perhaps there'll be some old Grand Prix tracks being resurrected to make sure that we get a wonderful calendar and something that will maximise the interest of all the viewers. But it was certainly a great Brazilian Grand Prix. I have to say, sometimes over the last few years, the Brazilian Grand Prix hasn't been the most interesting, but this year's Grand Prix certainly was much, much better. Well, that's the roundup of the Formula One Grand Prix from Brazil, and now we're going to do the car news. So, this week we found out that there's going to be an all-new Ferrari F-Type. Sorry, the Ferrari F-Type, my goodness me, how can I get that one wrong? A Jaguar F-Type. And it could actually be electric only, or potentially it might get a BMW V8 engine. But of course, Jaguar is trying to do an awful lot of work with their electric power plants. The new I-Pace is, of course, a fully electric model, and the new XJ luxury saloon is certainly going to be all electric as well. But it would certainly be interesting if the F-Type got an electric power plant too. You kind of wonder, they are getting faster and faster, and it would be a really kind of symbolic British version to try and see if they could compete with the likes of Tesla and make an amazing electric sports car. But there's lots of phenomenal cars coming out. We've got the new BMW Z4, which is, there've been some spy shots. In fact, it's pretty much ready to roll off the production line. We've got the new Audi Q8, which is the big SUV, which has just been launched in Britain. There's some little bit of discount that we can get so far, so if you are looking for one, remember to go to the website at cardioadvisor.co.uk, because we can save you some money on the new Audi Q8, and we can save you plenty of money on the entire Audi range. And what we're going to be doing over the next few shows on the Cardio Advisor podcast show is going over manufacturer by manufacturer. So, for example, we'll start with Alfa Romeo. Now, what we'll be doing is basically reviewing every car that they have on sale, giving it a quick review and telling you whether or not we think it's worth your attention. We'll help you to find the great cars and also to avoid the bogus and bad, dodgy cars that you want to avoid like the plague. So, we're going to be starting with Alfa Romeo and then on to Audi and BMW and Ford and all the cars in between. From Alfa to Volkswagen and Volvo, we'll do the lot and make sure that you get the best advice and the best deal on your next new car. And also, we'll be covering some vans as well. There's also been some very interesting news regarding electric cars and what they call PHEVs. And they potentially face an uncertain future. In fact, they're expected that the sales could possibly slide as the government recently took a decision to axe the plug-in car grant. Now, the number of battery electric vehicles that have been sold, this is according to Autocar, in 2018, from January to September, was 11,270. Now, that's only a year-on-year change of 1.3%, which, for us kind of car enthusiasts, you kind of wonder, with all the fuss that's being made about cars going electric, if they're all putting these new models coming out and all these deals going out, if it's only gone up by 1.3% in terms of electric vehicle sales, it's not exactly a massive trend. Now, yes, petrol and diesel are maybe taking a bit of a suffering in terms of a little bit. You know, diesel has gone down a bit because of Dieselgate. But petrol cars remain strong in terms of petrol sales. Petrol vehicle sales remain pretty strong. And diesels are also picking up a bit as well. I certainly by no means think that it's the end of the road. With so many new ways of making petrol as well, from different types of chemicals, it wouldn't surprise me if there's an awful lot more years to come. In fact, I think that although some governments have said they want to try and phase petrol and diesel cars out by 2040, I think it could be well after that when they realise just how good petrol and diesel engines are and also how efficient they are. Many people who work for the main manufacturers are saying that diesel is still a very efficient and actually is nowhere near as harmful as our governments would suggest. But that's a big question. Let us know what you think. Do you think the government is right to try and ban petrol and diesel? Or do you think it should be allowed to go on for many decades to come? You know the email. It's podcast@cardealadvisor.co.uk. It's also been told this week that some car insurers could be under investigation by the Financial Conduct Authority over hidden discrimination towards customers. The regulator alleges factors such as marital or employment status and customer loyalty can cause huge variation in prices. It certainly does seem to be a very complicated marketplace. Even when you're getting a renewal and trying to work out if you can save a bit of money, you've usually got to ask or haggle as much as you can to try and get a good deal. It's certainly worth shopping around, that's for sure. And London has its first low-emission zone. Its first London street to become the capital's low-emission area under new plans. The scheme will see a section of road in Moorgate closed to all but the most lowest ultra-emission vehicles to try and reduce local pollution. Well, that's going to be fun for Londoners. I'm glad I live up here in Scotland. Now, earlier in the show at the news headlines, I told you about a special offer that's open to UK Armed Forces and all of those involved in the UK emergency services. And if you've worked in the Commonwealth Armed Forces and you live in the UK, then this deal applies to you as well. As you are aware, at Cardio Advisor, we supply new cars and vans, mainly on leasing and contract hire, but also we do hire purchase and cash deals as well. Now, for contract hire and leasing, there's normally an administration fee of £295. That's to cover our costs for advertising and getting access to the best deals available in Britain. Now, if you're a member of the armed forces or in the emergency services, we'll reduce that fee for you as a thank you for your fantastic service to all of us here in the UK and beyond. We're going to reduce that fee from £295 to just £145. There's a little way for us to say thank you. So, to all our listeners, if you know of people in the armed forces who are looking for a new car or van, or would be interested in a finance deal, then please make sure you refer them to cardioadvisor.co.uk and we'll make sure they get a fantastic deal and get a great discount off the administration fees. Well, that's about it for this week's show. I hope this week to have Jonathan Sutherland to review again more cars, to have some lively chat and debate and a good bit of banter about what's good and what's terrible in the motor trade and what's on sale in the UK. So, have a fantastic week. It's great to speak to you and drive carefully. Bye just now. For more information, go to cardioadvisor.co.uk and you can see all the special offers that we have on the website. And remember, we have our YouTube channel, which is at Hugh Hattrick, and also we have our podcast on Podbean, on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Anchor FM. And if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe to our shows, or you can donate every month for just £1. Thanks for listening, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.